going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and happy 125th anniversary of the Bottled and Bond Act. That's right, 1897, the Bottled and Bond Act was enacted on this day 125 years ago. We've got 4 Bottled and Bond bourbons here. We're going to talk about these 4 specifically. We're going to talk about the Bottled and Bond Act. We're going to try and guess what they are because these are poured up blind for Marissa. We have our answer key underneath here, and then we're going to pick our favorite. Let's get into it. Everybody knows before we get started on all of that, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. That's good. So here we go, guys. The Bottled and Bond Act, right? A pivotal moment in whiskey history. We're going to go over the 4 criteria that you must meet to put Bottled and Bond on your bourbon, starting with number 1. It must be exactly 100 proof. All 4 of these meet the 100 proof requirement, and any bourbon that has Bottled and Bond on it must be exactly 100 proof. Rule number 2, it must be at least 4 years old. Now, New Riff over here is the only one that is actually age stated. It says aged 4 years. These 3 over here, while they're not age stated, we know because of the fact that it says Bottled and Bond on it that it must be at least 4 years old. Rule number 3, it must be distilled by one distillery in one distilling season in one distilling location. So these can't be sourced by multiple distilleries, blended together, and then put out as a Bottled and Bond. Again, it must be one distillery, one distilling season, in one distilling location. And the 4th rule, and the one that I think is probably the most important, at least it was back in the day, it must be aged in a federally bonded warehouse. So for you to make this Bottled and Bond, you must give it to the government and let them oversee the aging process. This lets them know that it's definitely 4 years old and you're not doing anything fishy when it comes to the whiskey inside. But let's get into these here. We're going to drink all 4 of these. We're going to talk about the 4 bottles that we have. These are in no particular order. We're going to start with the New Riff over here. New Riff comes at 65% corn. I believe it's 30% high rye and then 5% malted barley. It is age stated at 4 years. This comes from New Riff Distillery. They're making waves in the community if you haven't already heard about them. I like New Riff because they got their start in 2012 and they didn't start out by sourcing any of their product, right? They took the upfront cost, they waited the 4 years to put out a good, decent Bottled and Bond bourbon, and that's what we're sipping on here in one of these glasses, although I'm not sure which one's which. That first one's delicious. We're going to talk about all 4 of these bottles. They range, I mean, we're talking a $15 bottle versus a $50 bottle. New Riff, I think, is $45, and I think the 1792 is somewhere in that like $35 to $40 range. We're talking low rye all the way up to 30% rye, so it's going to be interesting. We should be able to pick these apart, at least a few of them, but we're going to find out. Let's get into glass number 2. Glass number 2, which may or may not be bottle number 2. This is Old Forester. This is the 1897, obviously the Bottled and Bond, which is why we have the 125th year of this. This comes in at 72, 18, 10. Is that right? 72, 82, 90, 10. 72, 18, 10, I believe. Brown Foreman, non-age stated. Again, about $50. So it's interesting to see if we can pick out a $50 bottle compared to a $15 bottle, but we're going to try our best. I can tell you right now, if I can pick out any one of these, I think this one's going to be the easiest to figure out. Again, maybe the Evan Williams should taste younger than the rest of these, although I guess not, right? Because they're all 4 years. So what's really going to distinguish these from each other? The cherry note in this is what I think is I'm going to be able to pick out. These 2 I think are going to be tough. And then, again, a $15 bottle of bourbon, if that can compete with a $45 or a $40 bottle, we're about to find out, but it'd be interesting to see. This is good as well. This has a little bit more kick to it. This one seems a little bit smoother, a little bit sweeter, but also a lot more spice on the end of this one, at least compared to this one. I don't know which one I like quite yet better than the other one. We're going to take one more sip later and figure that out, but let's get into glass number 3, our Drink Pro glass. Glass number 3, which again may or may not be the 1792 Bottled and Bond. 1792 coming out of Barton. I love all the 1792 products, although I will say I do think every single one that I've tried sips hotter than the proof. Not a lot, right? This is 100 proof. It might sip like a 105, 107, 110 range, but I do always remember this one sipping a little bit hotter. Again, this is coming out of Sazerac or Barton. Sazerac owns Barton. It's a high rye mash bill. We don't know the exact mash bill, non-age stated, undisclosed mash bill. Somewhere in that 15 to 20% range, I think, or 20 to 25% range. We'll just say 15 to 25, I guess. I don't know. This one sips hot. Now this, I don't know if it's because I'm thinking about 1792 right now, but this one sips hot compared to these 2. This one sipped the easiest. This one sipped pretty easy. This one sips the hottest, but it also has a little bit more flavor than this last one. It's a little bit more pungent with the flavor notes. Very similar flavor profiles so far on all 3 of these. So that's almost lending me to believe that this Rabbit Hole is going to be the Old Forester because I haven't quite picked up that cherry note yet. But we're going to take another sip again and see what we can figure out. It's so good, though. That is delicious. Again, a little spicy, a little sweet. Definitely a big ethanol kick, I think, for 100 proof. Leaning towards the 1792 on that. Still up in the air on which ones these could be. But again, without getting that cherry note yet, this might be the Old Forester and save the best for last, if you ask me. And last but certainly not least, we're going to get into number 4 here. And listen, we're going to talk about Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. If you've watched any YouTuber and they have a top 5 budget bourbons or best bourbons under $20 or anything like that, and they don't have Evan Williams Bottled and Bond, don't trust those people. Evan Williams Bottled and Bond deserves to be on everybody's budget bourbon list. It's absolutely fantastic for a $15 pickup. You can make mixed drinks with this. You could drink this neat. You can put this on the rocks. You could shoot this if you really want to shoot some 100 proof bourbon. I promise you it's versatile. It's delicious. I put it right up there with like a Wild Turkey, and it's like what, $10 cheaper? Is Turkey 25, 20? In that range, but you get the point. Evan Williams Bottled and Bond is one of the best budget bourbons. The white label, it's known for the black label and the white label. I think the white label is worth the pickup. Rabbit Hole is Old Forester. It's kind of easy. Now, I've had multiple complaints about doing blind tastings and not putting these in glasses that I can't tell the colors of. And maybe, again, from your perspective, you might be able to tell the color difference of this. The way that YouTube videos are set up, I got 2 very bright lights right here, right in my eyes. I can't see any of these colors being any different. And maybe, again, from your perspective, and when I edit this, I'll be able to tell. I actually bought 4 blacked out glasses for this exact reason, but then it was going to be hard for Marissa to say blacked out glass number 1. And then if I mix them up, it gets a little confusing. So I'm only going to use that for my 2 bourbon blinds. But for right now, this one, color and all, whether you can tell or not, this is Old Forester. I'm almost positive. If this isn't Old Forester, I'll be impressed. These 3, again, these 3 are very similar in the taste profile. This one's distinguished. It stands out. It just seems a little bit better. It seems like a $50 bottle of bourbon compared to what might be a $35 or $40 bottle of bourbon or a $15 bottle of bourbon. It's just that much better, I think. And again, if this isn't Old Forester, I'll be very surprised. It just seems to... Old Forester is up there in my top bourbons when it comes to their lineup. Wild Turkey is number 1 right now, but Old Forester, I've been saying it for a long time, is creeping up there, and they're getting close. I have an Old Forester birthday bourbon that might push them over the top. Just a sample. Don't get too excited. But let's go through, let's drink these one more time, and let's figure out which one's our favorite and try and guess which one they are. Super spicy on this one. Almost feel like we're talking high rye. Now, there's 2 of these that can be high rye, right? We have the Sazerac Bottled and Bond 1792, and we have the new Riff high rye as well, 30% and maybe 20 to 25%. So these 2 seem like the spiciest and the hottest. So that makes me believe that these 2 are either the 1792 and the new Riff or the new Riff and the 1792. But I don't like that they're... Marissa's in my head right now. If this is new Riff and this is 1792 and that's number 3 and number 1, respectfully, that's going to bother me, and I hope she didn't do that. But at least this, I think, is the Old Forester, so that would make this Evan Williams. That's where I'm at right now. Just because of that high rye mash bill compared to this one, which seems a little bit... I mean, I know I thought this one was sweet off the front, but you get a lot of rye spice on the end of this. This one drinks a little bit younger. This one does taste like the Evan Williams, if I had to guess. I'm going to go... Let me keep drinking and put them in an order. Let's put them in order, and then we'll go back and we'll guess which one they are. Yeah, these 2 are the hardest 2 to tell apart. I'll be honest with you. I think this is the Evan Williams. I think this is the Old Forester. I'm up in the air on these 2 right now. We're just going to take a guess. Hold on, let me just cleanse the palate with the Old Forester. Thinking. I'm going to say number 1 is the Rabbit Hole glass. This is my order of what I think is my... I can move these around, right? Because it's not going to change anything. The way we wrote it up, it's not going to change anything. I put down like Bourbon of the Week glass, Plain glass, Drink Pro glass, Rabbit Hole glass, and then she filled it in from there. So I can move these around. I'm going to say number 1 is my Rabbit Hole glass. I'm going to say number 2... These 2 are close. I think this one's last. And sadly, I think it's last. And like I said, I think it's the Evan Williams. Although I'm not 100%. But, I mean, you're talking about 4 great bourbons up here. Because it's last doesn't mean it's bad by any means. Now I mixed these up and I forget which one was which. I think this one was first, right? This is smooth. This drink program, this is smooth. I'm going to guess Drink Pro is $17.92. It just drinks hot. That's my only guess on this. These two are very, very, very similar. This one has a little bit more of an ethanol kick on it, and $17.92 always drinks hot for me. So that's my guesses. Old Forester Bottled and Bond, New Riff, Drink Pro is $17.92, and this one is Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. That's my order. Those are my favorite to least favorite, and that's what I think they are. Let's find out how close I was, or if I wasn't close at all. Again, if this isn't Old Forester, we're going to have problems, people. Let's go from the end, though. Plain glass first. Let's talk about it. The plain glass is Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. We're 1 for 1, folks. Not a bad pickup. I promise you, just because it's last on this list does not mean that you should not pick this bottle up. You can almost tell the youth, I think, compared to the other three, although it's definitely at least 4 years old, like we talked about. But it just seems like it's missing just a little bit of something, again, compared to these other three. Put this up against any other $15 bottle of bourbon you've had. This will win a blind. I guarantee you that. Number 3 was our Drink Pro glass. And if I get this one right, I'm almost positive we ran the gauntlet here. And if you watch Tim the Tap Man, you'll know what that means. Drink Pro glass is $17.92. Called it, folks. These two are close. Was the Bourbon of the Week glass? Bourbon of the Week glass is New Riff. And that means the Rabbit Hole glass. This is the best we've ever done on a blind like this. I think these are different enough, minus these two, to be able to call this. So I'm not telling you that I'm ADHD whiskey over here. I'm not the whiskey connoisseur or anything. But this is exciting. I like being able to do stuff like this and figuring out if my tasting profiles are getting better or worse. This one was obvious. This one I was a little afraid of. These two were tough. It was just that drinkability on the Drink Pro glass that really set it apart. But listen, that's where I'm going to leave you for today. Thanks for stopping by again. Make sure you click that like. Make sure you click that subscribe button. This will be our last video before Sunday's March Madness Bourbon Bracket Single Barrel Edition. Selection Sunday coming up this Sunday, March 6th. Make sure you check that out. Turn the notifications on. Go follow me on Instagram. We do a bunch of good giveaways on Instagram during the March Madness bracket. If you want to help support the channel, check us out on Patreon. And if you want to chat with a bunch of bourbon like-minded individuals, come chat with us in our Discord. All of those links in the description below. Please don't drink and drive. Drink responsibly and stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. Damn, that's good.